I'm Lindsay Wolfington. I'm the music supervisor on Warrior Nun. I was brought on season 1 to help, like my job, we have a composer who creates all the original score, and I help find any songs and then help clear them. So that's my role.
My name is Amy Kuney. I go by Ames as an artist. I co-wrote Hymn for Her and performed it and sent it to Lindsay, and it found a beautiful, beautiful home.
So, Lindsay, how did you get into management of
music supervision?
Yeah.
So I worked in, I always loved music. And then in college, I worked in radio, and kind of realized that wasn't a path I wanted to continue with, but was also a huge fan of the TV show Felicity, which was out at the time. I'm aging myself. And it kind of dawned on me that they use so much music I had never heard of. I bet that's someone's job. And then I think I went to the movies and saw a credit that said music supervisor and was kind of like, I bet that's what it's called. And I ended up moving to LA after graduating from college and meeting with, I did a cappella too. And there was an alum from my a cappella group who happened to work at Disney. And I was like, so what do you do? And he said, I oversee shows like Alias and Felicity. And I was like, oh my God, that's the example of the type of show I'd like to work on. And he knew the music supervisors of the show and said, your best bet is to start as an unpaid intern. I'm happy to send your resume over, write me a really good cover letter. And I was nervous about coming off as a psycho fan, but I was like, oh my God, show. And they let me intern, and they were also, it was right time, right place. They were backed up on paperwork. They needed someone to just come in and organize CDs and do confirmation letters and pitch when needed, the creative side. And I was super into it, and they could tell. So a week or two into it, they were like, we can't pay you much, but we can tell you're into this, stick around. And I ended up working for them for 4 years. The supervisors were Jennifer Piken and Madonna Wade-Reed. They were a partnership at the time. And when they split up their partnership, I went out on my own, and I had started working on the series One Tree Hill with them. And when they split, that production company kind of gave us each a show, which was amazing. And I ended up, One Tree Hill was you thought it was going to get canceled every spring, but then it ended up going on for 9 seasons. So we got super lucky. And actually, that's where I first came in contact with Amy's music.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the history or the how you guys met, and maybe how you started off as just building a relationship?
Yeah, Amy's music was brought through the showrunner. So Amy, what was your connection again? Do you remember?
So my manager / girlfriend at the time,
Reese.
Yes.
Okay, we can delete that if you want. Sorry, we can delete that.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah, she was Sophia Bush's little in a sorority at USC. They were I guess sorority sisters, and Sophia got on the show. Reese started sending her my music, and I believe that was sort of the in to getting it on the show. But the song that you used, All Downhill From Here, is a song that I wrote with Tim Myers, and it was an incredible placement. It was the season finale, the opening credits to the season finale.
And then, kind of the next step in our relationship beyond that was I was working. So when One Tree Hill ended, 2 of the executive producers went and started Awesomeness TV, which was a YouTube channel. And they were like, let's do a web series. And we had no money. So I was like, and it was it was the beginning of programming for the internet. So we were kind of like, what do you pay for these rights? As opposed to something that's going to be broadcast on the CW or ABC. So anyway, I had no money. So it was kind of I can use library music, and maybe I can find some cool indie artists I happen to know. And Amy, you had a remix of a song called Kiss Me Like You Mean It, which was so perfect. It was like a dubstep remix, and it was so perfect for this show where like we didn't really score. We kind of used, it was like sexy and mysterious and super dark. And anyway, so you were kind enough to let us use that song in the show. And then also I was like, this song has to be in the trailer. So it's in the trailer. So if you look up, that web series was called Runaways. There's probably a trailer on YouTube still with that song in it. Which, you know, it's so like the song we used on One Tree Hill is like an acoustic ballad. Well, it's not a ballad, but it's like acoustic and happy. And then you have this like dark dubstep thing, and then you have Him for Her. So Amy has such cool range.
So I think in one of the Twitter spaces, Ames, I think I remember you said that you didn't. You said at the beginning of this as well. I think you said you didn't know that it was going. Him for Her was actually going to be in it for sure until you watched it on the TV. So how does it go down there? Was it like a surprise to keep it?
Wait, we didn't tell you? Surely we told you.
It was I think it was like when I saw you at Susan Says thing, it was we still weren't really sure. But yeah, it's like I feel like a lot of times with like music placements and even like with commercial stuff and voiceover stuff that I do, it's not until I like see it or hear it on TV where I'm just like, oh yeah, it made it through. Because so many things change up to that point, so there's so many variables. But I've gotten to a point, I think, because I've been doing this, doing it for so long, I feel like I've gotten to a point where it's just pleasant. I'm just pleasantly shocked and not shocked, but surprised and happy when things go through. Because I even have something today where it's like I don't know if it's going to go through or not. So it's just, you kind of just let the universe take it over after I've done my part. I'm just like, okay, like I'm at peace with either way, and if it happens, I'm stoked. If not, go on to the next thing. So I feel like a lot of artists gonna have to be at peace with like just whatever happens and not get too butthurt about it, as we like to say.
Yeah, because the cuts can go through a lot of changes. So sometimes a song can be in there and then, someone decides that scene needs to go, or it was way too sad, let's turn it around and make it happy. So music changes sometimes from when you request it to when. So we never confirm anything until like it mixes. But I can understand Amy's perspective too of like, she'll believe it when she sees it or hears it.
Yeah.
It's that thing, isn't it, as an artist, of having to need like a thick skin for business and for that kind of side, but keeping your thin skin for the creative side. It's a hard balance, but
it is a tough balance. You have to protect yourself to an extent, but still, be able to be vulnerable in the studio with people that you don't know. So it's a kind of like it's an art, I think, in itself.
With the Avatrice kissing scene, were there like a list of songs presented? And if there were, why did Him for Her stand out among them all?
Well, I went back and looked at my emails because I remember emailing the song to Simon, our showrunner, and being like, I have this song. It's written about a same-sex relationship. It's so beautiful. It's got the word him in it. I didn't say that, but I had read the finale and had the song, and Simon was directing those episodes. So I sent it to him while he was directing, because I was like, maybe he'll fall in love with it and shoot it. And he was like, cool, let's keep it in the basket. Let's keep it among our options. I think the main thing with this scene, I probably deleted my folder of music I sent over. I usually send over, if I think something's a music moment, like a couple ideas. I don't know if I sent anything else for this scene, because this scene in particular was like will it even lend itself to a song? Like it might be score, right? Like it's momentous and serious. And this show leans on score more than it does on song. So I think that was more of the question is this going to be a song or is this going to be score? And of course, you know, me as the song person, I'm always like, I don't know, like a song is something you can take home. Like I love score too, but like you can take it home afterwards and it can not take it home, but listen to it. Right. And, you know, anyway, I find songs have always been meaningful to me. So I'm always a little bit like, use the song. It'll be so great.
Yeah. We love Tangerine, but I can't imagine this scene without this song. Like it just hands down, like amazing placement.
No, thank you. Well, and here's the thing also about it is it's like, it's score like, right? And that's always so great when sometimes a song begins and you're not sure if it's a song or score, like, or, you know, because it just begins with like, kind of like, there's a simplicity to it, which maybe you can tell, like, it's like piano. So it's not really like what our score sounds like, but I always find it nice when you're not sure at first and it blends in so much that it almost feels like part of the score.
So how do the directors like pitch the vision of a scene to you?
So I don't get pitched. Like I read the scripts and come up with my own vision, right? And then the director's reading the scripts and talking to all the people so I'm part of what's like called post-production, which is the editorial and kind of like after things have been shot. And every once in a while I need to pick something for, you know, like music in the club for dancings. We need a beat, like the club episode in season 1, like we sent a lot of that when they filmed. So the director's kind of like doing their thing and I read the script and sometimes what I imagine in my head is not like I'll get the cut and I'll be like, oh, that is not how I pictured that. That's like super normal. So I'm just more guessing, like I'm looking for like moments. Like sometimes it's like, oh, it's a cafe or the bar where Ava worked. So we needed like music in the bar. And then other times I'm looking for moments to make an impact, like a fight scene or obviously like a big romantic moment. But we're all kind of working individually. The director is definitely in touch with anyone who's on set. And then Simon, as the showrunner, while he happened to direct some episode, he's the showrunner on all episodes. So even if other people come in and direct, he has the vision for the series. So as we get into editorial, he gives the editor notes, he gives me notes. We have a spotting session where we talk about, you know, every music cue. We watch down the episode and talk about every music cue. And sometimes it's temped with things that Tangeline's done. Sometimes it's temped with scores from other movies. And, you know, it might be like, this worked because it makes me feel tense, but I don't like the guitar in here or whatever it is. So we, and then Tangeline takes those notes and goes away and creates. And usually by that point, we've decided what songs we're using, but sometimes we change. We actually, the song that they danced to in the bar in episode 1, the Betta LeMay song, was not that originally. And that was actually, they danced to, well, there were 2 songs that the director had me clear when we actually shot that episode. And then I don't always know what they actually danced to. I feel like there was like an internet rumor that they were dancing to something that was neither of those songs. Do you guys know?
I think they used Girls on Film.
Yeah, that was not what I cleared, but and never came up as an option to me. So sometimes like they're just getting them right in a space on set. And then when you put the episode together in editorial, you sometimes change direction.
We're all very grateful for Bambala. Thank you.
I mean, I love that song. And actually, so it was really interesting because it was like upbeat, but then like the slow-mo stuff. So it was a hard combination to find like a good song for. And Simon really wanted, he said, I just want this to be memorable. I want it to be like that song, like you sing in your head afterwards. And I was like, I totally know what you're talking about. Now I have to go find it. I've actually used that Betta LeMay song before, but not the remix. So, but it was totally, I was like, well, I just keep coming back to this song because I love it. It's memorable to me. Because I did like 4 rounds on that scene before we came to that song. But I've had Betta LeMay in my folders from season 1 because we wanted to use like European artists and make it really feel international, and songs in Spanish and stuff like that. So
for all 4 of those songs that you had lined up, did you have to do the licensing for each of those just in case?
No, when I say 4 rounds too, by the way, there are like 5 to 10 songs in those rounds. At some point I was like, what do we like here? No. So the good news is you don't have to clear it unless you want to use it, right? To keep it. So no, I mean, I'm always trying to make sure something's clearable or within our budget, but not until they pick the song do I clear it. But because there were 2 options when we went to film, in case they wanted to tie themselves to those, I had cleared those beforehand.
So what was it that made Him for Her just stand out to you when you heard it?
I mean, first of all, I'm a sucker for a ballad, and I'm also like a sucker for like the simplicity and sparseness of it. It was just so beautiful. And it was a love song that you wrote for your wife. So like it shined through, I mean, there are not a lot of songs out there like that, right? And Ames had emailed it to me and was just like, check it out. I was like, this is so pretty. The song speaks for itself. For me, there was never another song for this scene.
Thank you.
You've both built up this relationship, independent artist and music supervisor. And I'm guessing, Lindsay, you've also built up a lot of relationships with other independent artists. Is there a piece of advice that you might give to somebody who is an independent artist, or maybe somebody who's even in the fandom, who's a musician, that perhaps is something connected to music supervision, that is something that they could do proactively to build these relationships?
I mean, here's the thing is it's actually really hard to have the like one-on-one relationship. So most of my relationships are with people who represent indie artists. So if you are an indie artist looking for placement, I recommend getting representation for sync. There are a lot of people, sync agents or third-party pitchers. There are millions of artists out there and I need help filtering them too. So that's what these third-party pitchers do. Most of my relationships with like individual artists started when I was young and had all the time in the world. Like meeting Amy, like we saw each other at this Susie Sue event. Susie Sue's another artist that I've used on a lot of different shows since One Tree Hill. And she and I went to college together, but didn't know it. So we were connected by like a mutual friend from college. And she was on like Epic Records at one point. I'm still in touch with those people that I met a long time ago. I think in one, this kind of doesn't have anything to do with your question, but I think in some other world, I wish I was a singer-songwriter and was talented enough to put down my music. And so I do really appreciate, what songwriters and artists do. And so it is really cool when you can connect on a personal basis, but it's overwhelming to try to figure out just all the people in the world, all the musicians in the world out there. And how am I going to reach out to all of them? Because the other half of my job is the paperwork, right? And making sure people understand the language. And when I work with these trusted sources who already represent artists, they know this stuff like the back of their hand. So they know if the fee is appropriate, they know that these rights are the rights that everybody asked for. They don't have to consult with their lawyer. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just sometimes slows down the process. And sometimes in television, you don't have that time. But Amy, maybe you have advice in that respect.
As far as reaching out to,
Well, like what does an indie songwriter do to get placements?
oh man, I do try to write. I don't necessarily when I'm writing songs, I definitely like am more, I guess, in my life, like what's going on in the moment, how I'm feeling, and how does everything apply to what I'm writing right now. But I do, as I said before, I was raised on classical music, on hymns, and then eventually soundtracks. And so I do think that there is just an instinct that I have to want to write things that are a little bit more cinematic. Like I do love using strings in most of my songs and using more cinematic drums. And I think I watch a lot of television as well. Whenever I'm writing in my studio, I always have a show on not right now, but I always have something on mute. So I'm writing, being inspired not only by my own life, but something else that's going on, and by the colors and the movements and the characters. So I think it's just always been a thing of mine. I've wanted to see visuals paired to my music, and I think it has inspired and influenced the way that I write. That's not to say that everything I write is cinematic, but I've also I do try to do research to a point where I know if I'm sending a song to someone, I know where I could see it being played, or I know where I could hear it being played, as opposed to just sending a blanket of material and saying, "Hey, I'm a songwriter. Here's my stuff." It's about, and I tell my students this too. It's about being a bit more specific and doing the homework before sending anything, doing the most work you can possibly do on your side, and saying like, this would be perfect for like this type of situation. Just like, it has explicit lyrics, it doesn't. This would be great for like a party scene. This would be great for a threesome. I mean, just very, very specific things, to the point where you're doing as much work for them as you can, if that makes sense.
My question, we had asked it earlier to Ames, but what is your thoughts? Like, what are your thoughts on the Save Warrior Nun campaign, Lindsay, since you were on?
Well, you guys have been busy. I'm not on Twitter that much. So I just like pop on every once in a while and see all the amazing things that people have been doing. I think it's so cool. I really hope somebody listens. I feel uninformed. Like, what's the Paramount angle that I just saw, the new hashtag? Did Paramount express interest? Like, or do you just think they need it? What's that one?
So weekly we do a trending phrase, the way that Twitter works, and like with data and how phrases actually trend, you want to like basically around the same time of day just push one general message. So we have trending phrases. Usually it's like every other day, about 3 times a week now. Like it was every day for a while. We've tried to give people more mental health breaks. But essentially we have a really good team of people, Had and Ari, who come up with these like really fun phrases. And we just have everybody basically spam them with the hashtag Save Warrior Nun. So we did one for Paramount, we've done Apple, we've done HBO. We did one for Kelly Clarkson, trying to get like cast or crew on the show. And then when on the days off, we do like just kind of almost like crack edit ones where there's just really funny phrases, but they're still connected to the show and the hashtag. And I mean, I think for the most part, we would have to look at the data, but most of them have been in worldwide trending like almost every time. So it's definitely a global effort of getting them trending, especially since it's like, for me, it's 11 a.m. Central Time when they start. So like when you consider globally, that's everywhere. People are waking up, and then when people are going to sleep, it's still going. Like we still have people just constantly getting them out there. So
Well, you guys are amazing. I would love to do. I was definitely surprised to hear, although I did feel like a little bit like, when you put that much time in between season 1 and 2, like I felt like that was their fault, that they should have brought us back sooner and whatnot. Maybe whatever they're looking at in terms of metrics of success. But sometimes, I know from having been on a show that was almost canceled several times. And I also worked on, I picked this up right after Shadowhunters, which was different, but another kind of like sci-fi drama that a lot of people that got canceled. And I think, sometimes people are making these decisions because of like special effects are really expensive. But I really hope someone listens to you, because I think the hardest part about shows is finding a fan base. So when you find one, you should hold on to it with your life. I mean, I always say like that's, One Tree Hill went on and on because 1, it was cheap, and 2, we had like this core, like we didn't have like a ton of viewers, but we had like core viewers who held on and didn't let go. And that is huge. So thank you guys for being that for us and for doing all this. It's amazing. People should hire you to market things.
I think one of the overall goals is, with the billboard, with these hashtags, is to get media attention. And so these, streaming platforms will see, hey, you have a huge base already here.
Yeah. What do you do?
So, Ames, I know that you have to go. We really appreciate you taking the time to answer our questions.
Having me, and Lindsay, thank you so much for finding a home for him, for her.
So good to see you, and
to see you as well.
And I also think when you write music from the heart, it shows, and then when you it helps me give heart to a scene. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you and everything you do. So, and thank you all for having me, and keep up the good work. I was saying I pass the billboard all the time when I'm heading over to Glendale. Past the Warrior Nun billboard, so it's a huge testament. But yeah, thank you all so much, and thank you, Lindsay, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.